NHL All-Star Weekend is officially underway, and we know which team / which celebrity Filip Forsberg will be representing this weekend, plus a Friday edition of Takes from a Hat. It's coming up today on the Locked On Predators podcast.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making the Locked On Predators podcast your first listen of the day. Every single day, we are your free daily Nashville Predators podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I want to start out with a special shout out to our loyal Locked On Pred heads out there, the everydayers who were tuned into every single show. We love you guys, and we appreciate the support you give us week in and a week out. I'm Nick Morgan. I'm a writer at Penalty Box Radio, and I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer at the Hockey News.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your best bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. On today's show, it is a Friday edition of Takes from a Hat. We got topics on here on NHL All-Star Weekend, on the Preds' future, maybe a little bit of a roster shakeup. We will get to those coming up on this Friday edition of the Locked On Predators podcast. But first, NHL All-Star Weekend is here, and Filip Forsberg is now a member of the Belieber Squad.
Oh, goodness.
Or Team Matthews, or whatever it's officially called.
We're going to go with Team Matthews, although, hey, hi, Justin Bieber, how you doing? But yeah, this was good. I will say this, as somebody, who we have one representative there from Nashville, Filip Forsberg, as the names are being called, it just started to feel like gym class flashbacks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it took a long time, and it kept taking a long time. And at some point you were like, A, when are you going to pick Filip Forsberg? And B, by the time you're done picking, are we going to have time to even play the dodgeball game? Like, it just seemed like there wasn't as much pace to the picking as maybe I would have thought. But yes, Filip Forsberg joins Austin Matthews, which shout out to Austin Matthews for recognizing greatness when he sees it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's the mustache.
Yeah, it's the
mustache connection.
It is the mustache connection, which is a song that Kermit the Frog should sing.
Yeah. I would do a Kermit the Frog impression here, but let's not. Filip Forsberg also joining the entire Toronto Maple Leafs team. Why not just stack everybody on the same team?
Yeah.
So let's talk about the fantasy draft, Anne. Because if this was like the fun new way of like getting the players excited about All-Star Weekend, and if this was like the way that like just injects a bunch of fun and a fun bunch of excitement into the All-Star game, boy, that did not work out last night.
Oh, it was, again, the NHL, so much potential, lands so short.
And here's
so
the
much
thing.
Potential.
This was a good idea. Like, I love that the NHL brought this back. Stick taps to the NHL.
Yeah.
Because I think this was a good idea. Getting the celebrities involved, I think added just like an extra layer of, okay, well, I'm going to have to tune in to see that. I mean, just look at the NFL when a celebrity is involved and the ratings jump through the roof.
And then lose their Jesus. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's a different podcast for a different day.
That is a different day.
And it's they're getting this celebrity involvement, and they're having players kind of have this like fun draft moment. And I remember back in like the original drafts and kind of like the funny things that happened, like Alex Ovechkin really wanting that car and wanting to be picked last so he'd get the car. And, Jonathan Toews trading Tyler Seguin for Phil Kessel because that was the famous Bruins Maple Leafs trade. Like fun moments like that. And I those were fun. And I credit the NHL for trying to go back to that. It's just, God, the players just had Oh, no personality. It's like going on a bad date where they're just like sitting there and like giving 5-word answers to all
Yeah.
the questions you ask and don't say anything back. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, and then even like the celebrities like Biebs could like
Come on.
drink a cup of coffee
Yeah.
or whatever you do to hype yourself up on the road.
Yeah.
I will say stick taps to Michael Bublé, who I think admitted after the press conference he was on mushrooms the entire time.
That explains some things.
That is certainly one way to do it, and
Yeah.
certainly one way to add some personality into the All-Star game.
Yeah, I do. I'm with you. Like there's so much potential here. And I love the addition of the celebrities. It felt like, again, I was like, Bieber, you look bored, buddy. Are you okay? Are you sick? Like what's happening? I liked adding the celebrities in, but it was funny to me because of course everybody is mic'd up and the hockey players on the one hand are like trying to like talk about who they want, but they didn't want to do it on mics because, gonna be playing these guys later and you don't want to say the right and wrong thing about the wrong person.
Nobody's gonna drop the gloves in a fantasy draft or in an all-star game.
I mean, I know, but I'm just saying like you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. But also, and I say this with love in my heart, like Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews, you're looking at the little Hughes brothers. You're looking at the little Hughes brothers. You're looking at Nathan. They're grown-ups, I know. You're looking at Nathan McKinnon. And when you look at those guys, I get why they're the captains. Like you're looking at, 4 of the best players in the league right now, but maybe not the most dynamic. Maybe not the most engaging. And so what you really needed was people who were going to host it, who were really going to be able to carry it. And I don't think that the hosts were quite ready for that. And it was almost like they didn't quite know how it worked. Like my favorite was when Connor McDavid picked and then they were last. So they got to pick again. He's like, wait, what? Oh, it caught us off guard. And I'm like, dude, I know you were picked first and probably didn't stick around to see how it went the rest of the way. But how did you not pick up between then and now that this is how the draft works?
But also like maybe, like I get it. Like that kind of like chaos can be fun sometimes when the players like have fun with it.
Yeah.
It just didn't seem like anybody was really having fun with it. And maybe that's just like, let's get them in front of cameras more to like actually have some personality. But like, imagine if this was like back when like Brendan Shanahan and Brett Hull and, Patrick Waugh and some of these like, people who are like, doing all those like fun ESPN commercials back in the day and like players with personality and, players that would joke around and, kind of have fun with reporters and stuff like that. Like it would be so much better with like that kind of personality. Maybe there's just not in it right now because whenever there is like, quote, like cough, cough, PK Subban, it tends to make them a villain in the league.
Yes.
And I think we need more villains in the league because, that kind of personality does really well for sort of a fun, chaotic event like this.
Do you know who needed to host this? Could have solved this ahead of time.
PK Subban.
I mean, first, literally, I'm like, where is he? But you're right. People don't like him. Here's who needed to host this. You needed to get a trio, and this trio would have nailed it. I want Zachary LaRue. I want Luke Evangelista, and I want Yaroslav Askarov hosting that thing. Can you imagine? Like, you want to talk about players who are going to grow up in the league and not be boring? I'd like you to meet these 3. They would have been fun.
Yeah.
You need some of that. You need some of those guys.
Yeah. All right, real quick, Ann. Who is the strongest all-star roster?
I'm going to go with Team McDavid. I think they got the best goaltender in Connor Hellebuck. I think they have 2 of the 3 top scorers. They've got Reinhart and they've got Pasternak. And I mean, you've got Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl together. And we all know what Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid can do together. So I'm Team McDavid.
Yeah, I'm with you. When you add Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl scoring up front, you got Sam Reinhart, who's one of the NHL's leading scorers right now,
who did not get picked near the top. What are y'all doing?
Yeah, and you have David Pastrnak, and the other team that tries to score, they're going to have to score in Connor Hellebuck, who's probably the Vezina and possibly the Hart.
The Hart.
Yeah,
come on,
front runner right now. So that's to me, I'm with you. I think the McDavid Will Arnett combo is the team to beat. Although it will be fun to kind of see the Nathan McKinnon, Tate McRae team with McKinnon and Crosby together. Interesting thing.
And all of the Toronto Maple Leafs with Filip Forsberg is going to be really great.
And Jake Ottinger, Clayton Keller. So since he's not facing a Predator in this All-Star game, don't count on Clayton Keller to do much. If he was playing on a different team going against Filip Forsberg, he'd be scoring like 16 goals.
He would have the hat trick cubed.
So All-Star Weekend coming up. We'll, of course, have a recap of what happened during All-Star Weekend and give our thoughts as to whether or not this whole thing actually worked, coming up on the Locked On Predators show on Monday. But for today, it's Friday, which means we have some takes from a hat, some good topics on All-Star Weekend, also the Preds, also maybe some roster shakeups. That's coming up here in just 1 second. But first, want to mention today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl Sunday, 1 week away, and you can celebrate with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. If you're like me, Super Bowl Sunday is all about scoring the best seat on the couch, grabbing your snacks, grabbing your drinks, and placing some fun Super Bowl bets. I'm talking things like how long the national anthem is going to be, the coin toss, the color of the Gatorade, all kinds of fun stuff. And now FanDuel has a lot of ways for you to end the season with a W or 2 or 3, because you can make those bets and much, much more. Not only can you bet on who will win Super Bowl 58, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points will be scored, specific player stats, and so much more. New customers, join today, and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Again, just put $5 down, nail your bet, and you can get $200 in bonus bets. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. Again, that is FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Ann, it is Friday, which means it's time for takes from a hat.
Let's go.
You know how this works. We rip this straight from Whose Line Is It Anyway? Basically, we have a bunch of different pieces of paper in here with topics ranging from Predators to the NHL to hockey to pop culture, anything in life. So, Ann, would you like to get us started with our first?
Yes, I will reach into my take. Now, here's a warning. I kept some of my takes in my hat from last week. So hopefully I'm not repeating any, but I won't remember if I did. So, okay. This is one I'm really glad I pulled. So Barry Trotz said that the next 8 to 10 games will be critical in deciding what he does at the trade deadline. Here are the next 8 games. This is who we're playing, just for background information. Arizona, New Jersey Devils, Dallas, St. Louis, Vegas, the Kings again, San Jose, and Anaheim. What do you think we're going to learn about the Predators in those 8 games?
I think we're going to learn the resolve of this current roster because Barry Trotz basically just kind of laid the message down. It's like, look, we may make a playoff run if you go through this well, or we may build something up to get to the playoffs. If we're so-so, or you're kind of the back and forth team that you've been over the past month or so, there's a good chance a lot of you are going to get torn out of the locker room. So this is your time to step up, and we're going to see who on this team steps up. We talked about the confidence level yesterday when we were talking about maybe some of these team players in a slump, maybe some of them making kind of bad in-game decisions in terms of, not being aggressive, kind of making a timid plays. I'm going to see if that turns around. Like, is Filip Forsberg going to come out of this all-star break, playing with all these star players, like with a lot more confidence to be the guy for the Nashville Predators and just go on a heater? Is Roman Josi going to take a little bit more control of this offense? Is Ryan O'Reilly going to get back on track? Is Tommy Novak going to get back on track? And some of these players in the block, like Yakov Trenin, Tyson Barrie, Dante Fabro, look, like you have a chance to not just sort of play yourself into sort of higher value to get more teams interested in you, but you also have a chance to sort of leave the Predators on a high note.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, Barry Trotz, I think, laid down a challenge for this team, and we're going to see how mentally tough and resound these Predators are to step up.
Yeah, I really like that. I think it's going to be so interesting. And that's a challenging schedule when you look at, the teams that are on it. Of course, Arizona, St. Louis aren't top teams in the league, but they're teams that are kind of knocking on the Predators' door here. Of course, the LA Kings, but you have Dallas, you have New Jersey, you have Vegas. So I think this is going to tell us what do we really have? Because I wonder if there is a bit of a fatigue factor that we've seen in this last little stretch, because you've got these young players who are just kind of working their way through their first full season, 50 games in. But you've also asked so much of your veterans. You've asked so much of your veterans on and off ice. And so I'm curious to see, what does a little bit of a break do for them mentally and physically to come back? But I'm with you. I'm curious to see what we learn about the defense, because I think a lot's going to be decided about the blue line in these 8 games. You mentioned Dante Fabro, Alexander Carrier. What the heck is going to happen with Tyson Barrie, for the love of all that's holy? Will that storyline ever wrap up? We don't really know. But I think those 8 to 10 games are going to tell us, hey, are we going to see Spencer Stastny and Mark Del Gaiso soon? Yeah. Or are we not?
Yeah.
It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
Nerve-wracking. Those are gonna be big games.
And you mentioned, Arizona's not a top team, but hey, they sure beat the Predators a lot. So.
They sure do. Thanks for that, Clayton Keller. You're welcome.
All right. Let's see here. All right. This is an interesting one.
Okay.
If you had your pick, who do you think will be the next call-up from the Milwaukee Admirals?
Oh, you know what? That's such a great question. Such a great question. Of course, I would say logistically, and depending on Alexander Carrier's injury, I suspect if Carrier still isn't ready to go, I think he is day-to-day. I think they said he's day-to-day with upper body. Yeah. I would suspect it's going to be Stastny. Just the logistics tell me if Carrier can't go, and I don't think Tyson Barrie did anything to really wow them in that 800th game where they're going to be like, well, he's back in the lineup regularly.
Yeah.
So I think logistically we're looking at Stastny, which I am 100% here for. I just really like this young man, and I love his game and what it brings. But also, I know everybody's talking about Igor Afanasyev, and I wouldn't mind seeing him. This kid's playing with a lot of confidence and a lot of swagger, no fear. Like there is no tentativeness. There's no hesitation in his game. If he can transfer that up here, fantastic. Also, Mark Jankowski.
Yeah.
I know he's not maybe the flashy call up that everybody, because we've seen him and he's done his time. Jankowski's killing it. He was just named the AHL's January Player of the Month. 7 goals in 11 games in January. In 26 games before that, he had 8 goals. Jankowski is on a tear.
Yeah.
So that may not be the glamorous call up, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Jankowski, especially if the Predators feel like, hey, we're still in this and we need the guy who gives us a really good chance to get on a little bit of a run in these next stretches. Jankowski could be your guy. Yeah. What about you? Who do you think they might bring up?
I think logistically Stastny. I think the person I would want to see at this point is Afanasyev, just because of how hot he's playing, and just because I think in terms of the prospects in that situation right now, that's probably the one you're most itching to see, like what he can do full time at the NHL level. I think we got time for one more before our next break, Ann.
All right, reaching into my Craig Smith designed hat, which I love.
Yeah, shout out.
Shout out Craig Smith. The Predators record right now, 26-23-2. Are you surprised by this record? Why or why not? If I had told you at the beginning of the season at the All-Star break, they were going to be 26-22-2, 26. I just read it, 26-23-2. Thanks for that, LA.
Yeah.
What do you think of that record?
I think if you would have told me, honestly, before the break, that this is where the Nashville Predators would be, or before the season started, if this is where the Nashville Predators would be, I probably would have been like, yeah, that sounds about right. I think the path to get there was maybe a little bit different. The cold start followed by, an epic hot streak, followed by a couple of rough goaltending outings that maybe robbed some wins, followed by just kind of so-so play, in front. I think I would have expected a lot more. I think the best way of saying it is like, the play we've seen over the past couple of weeks, where it's like they're on fire one night, the next night they're lackluster, one night their goaltending's bailing them out, the next night it's their goaltending's bailing them out, but their goaltending or their forwards aren't good enough to score. That's kind of how I predicted it might be for the whole season.
Yeah.
Just because there just wasn't a lot of trust in the players up front to kind of be offensive dynamos.
Yeah.
So I think, when you look at it, I would have gone like, yeah, that's the record sort of middle in the pack. I think they're just right outside the playoffs right now.
Yeah.
I would say like, okay, that's probably where I would have expected them to be. Is just maybe the in-season sort of path is a little bit differently than I would have expected to play out.
Yeah, I agree with that. I did not. I'll be honest with you. I'm a little bit surprised that they're over 500. I just set my expectations kind of low. I think Barry Trotz was very clear to kind of set people's expectations low, like we're going to take 2 steps back. So I really didn't expect the team to be even in a wild card conversation. I thought, oh, that's just really nice. Like, what a nice bonus. But I really have been shocked by the path, by the elements of it. UC Saros kind of struggling at times. Very surprised by that hot run that they went on in November. Kind of surprised, and I hate to say this, I'm really surprised by how impactful Ryan O'Reilly and Gus Nyquist have been at times. I don't think I really expected that. And then also a little bit surprised by how some of the younger players have struggled. So I would agree with you. Like, it's not shocking where they're at, but I think the path that this season has taken has been a little bit shocking.
Yeah, I'm with you there. More takes from a hat in a couple seconds, including some takes on this year's All-Star game. We'll go through some of these rapid fire coming up in just 1 second. All right, Ann, more takes from a hat.
Yeah.
Let's see what we got in here for you.
All right.
Oh, okay. This is a fun one.
Oh, good.
Okay. You have 1 year, 1 year to train professionally for any All-Star weekend event.
Yeah.
Which do you think you would be the most competitive in?
Fastest skater.
Fastest skater? You think
Fastest skater, baby. Because I'm too broken to do the other one.
You can bust out like a 12-second lap like Dylan Larkin?
You know what? For a couple of reasons. I think like things like accuracy, stick handling, one-timers, that takes so much more coordination.
Yeah.
And like, I've had hip surgeries, and I feel like that takes a lot more like twisting and generating torque and all that stuff. And I'm like, let's just not break in anymore. But for me, I am here for fastest skater. Like, I would be all over that like flies on stink. Now, here's where it would go wrong. It would be the stopping.
Yeah, it would have to be like Luis Mendoza from the Mighty Ducks, where just like skates, and then just jumps into like the pile of cans that Hans tries to set up to
100%.
slow him down.
Yeah, I
But
would love to do that. I would love to do fastest skater. And I think the Predators have such a great skating coach. I think she could turn me into something.
there you go. I would have done accuracy.
Really?
I don't think it would be good, but I think it would be out of everything, I would be the closest towards being competitive.
Yeah. Which
in
one
that.
would be the hardest, do you think?
Which one? Oh,
Which do you think would be the hardest to train for and get good at?
I mean, is it hardest shot?
I would think it would be hardest
Because
shot.
I feel like you
do.
need, that's not necessarily just skill. You need to put some meat on your bones and some
Yeah.
muscle there. Although the skills relay where you're skating and stick handling through the
that's
all the
not easy
obstacles,
either.
that's hard too.
Yeah.
All right, next one, Ann.
All right, here's another all-star one. If you could redesign those all-star game jerseys, what would you change about them? And please tell me you'd change them. Do you like the all-star jerseys?
I mean, there was one that was okay. I think the white one was okay.
Yeah.
Um,
It reminds me of the NBC. I think it was NBC, The More You Know.
Yeah.
that color wheel with the star.
Yeah. I mean, I would go. I don't know, like go back to like sort of weird colors. Like remember the year where there was like teal and purple were like the colors in the All-Star
Yeah.
game. Maybe just do something different with like the design. So it's not just it looks like, just sort of a white shirt with a yellow thing on it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I like when they used to be creative, like the All-Star jerseys that had the collars on them, or like kind of like the weird like racing stripes across them. Minnesota's when Thomas Vokoun and Kimmo Timonen were in that All-Star game in Minnesota, those were cool because they had like these like vintage jerseys.
Ooh.
Yeah. I don't know what specifically I would do.
But what I think would be fun is like make it a contest. Like let's get some NHL fans to submit designs, and then let's pick that, because this is too basic for me. It's like a star on primary colors.
Yeah. And if you're a NASCAR fan, tell me that red jersey doesn't look like the Bill Elliott McDonald's car from the 90s. If you know exactly what I'm talking about, if you're a NASCAR fan.
Yeah.
All right. Here we go, Ann. I think I know the answer to this.
Okay.
So the NHL has celebrity captains for this year's All-Star game.
Right.
Who would be your dream celebrity captain to draft you onto their team?
Are you ready for it? Y'all, Nick and I have had many off video conversations about the whole Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce thing. The whole NFL, Taylor Swift, blah,
it's
blah, blah.
not Taylor Swift's fault.
It's not. And I want to be clear that Nick is not, he is not that guy.
Yeah.
But
I also don't like the Chiefs. And none of this could happen to a least convenient team for me.
Yes, it's more about Travis Kelce. No, you know what? Give me Taylor freaking Swift, and I want her in sequin, in like the sequin bodysuit with the the Louboutin sequined boots, singing "The Man" at the end, and then drafting these guys. Give me Taylor Swift, y'all. And look, I know I'm not the demographic, but my daughter-in-law got me into her, and I freaking love Taylor Swift now. Sorry.
Yeah. Do we go back to the last question about the redesigned jerseys and are like sequins for Taylor Swift? Like, does one team wear like a big cardigan? The other team wears like a little skin tight sequin jersey.
Yes. One wears like the marching band costume.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I'm trying to think of all of her eras. I'm sure someone will.
Like she's got the beautiful. I know them, but we won't. Anyway, what about you? Who would you pick?
That's not who I thought you were going to pick. I thought you were going to go Henry Winkler.
Oh my gosh, y'all! There are just not words for how much I love. And you know what? Henry Winkler would be freaking fabulous. I love him, and he smells like heaven.
Yeah, for me, it's got to be Dolly Parton, right?
Oh my gosh!
Who doesn't want to play for Team Dolly in an All-Star game?
Oh my gosh, they would die. Those players would just die.
Yeah, not only that, like, not only will it be the most fun team, but there's gonna be like a tray of like biscuits and chicken and
Oh,
dumplings
yes.
from some, off the road kitchen in Sevierville
Yes.
that's ready for us after the game.
Oh, I love that. Dolly Parton, she's such an American icon. She
Oh,
rocks.
absolutely. All right. I think we got time for one more.
All right, let's do a quick one here. Let's see here. Oh, easy one. What past or present Nashville Predator would you most want to get a beer with and why?
Oh, past or present?
Past or present?
PK Subban to me is up there
Love
just
him.
because I feel like he'd just be so fun and have like such a fun conversation.
Yeah.
God, I really love Jordan Tutu and like his life
Yes.
story. And,
Yes.
I feel like he's just somebody who would just have a lot of insight, not only a different way of growing up, but coming into Nashville when it still was trying to kind of find its footing as a hockey town and, playing for some of those initial sort of questionable teams towards evolving into, playing for the contenders. And, I feel like that's somebody who would have a lot of good stories, not just like life path, but for, somebody that you can kind of talk to gauge sort of the evolution of hockey in Nashville. And by
Yeah.
all accounts, a good guy too.
Yeah, that's funny. Jordan Tutu is on my short list. I think he would be fabulous. I would love to sit down and have a beer with Mark Borowiecki. Look, I know he was here
Yeah.
for this long, but Boro is so interesting to me because on the surface, he is your stereotypical old school hockey player, but there is so much more there. And I think he's had such great experience and insight. And plus, I just think he's probably a hell of a lot of fun.
Oh, 100%.
So
Yeah.
maybe we should invite Boro on for a beer.
Yeah. And if you run into any trouble while you're out having that beer, if things get rowdy, who better than Boro Cop to,
That's right.
enforce some stuff out there?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? And screw it. Let's do one more.
Let's do one more.
Let's do one more,
It's
shall
Friday, y'all. We're feeling all kinds of Friday here.
Yeah. Okay. This is a fun one. And
Okay.
It's all-star themed again.
Great.
All right. Would you rather represent your team in an all-star game or go on an elaborate vacation?
This is so funny. Yeah. Here's the thing. I would rather go on an elaborate vacation.
Sure.
I mean, look, I
I'll go
am
with
spending
you.
the All-Star break in Middle Tennessee, the Turks and Caicos of, the United States, of course.
Yeah.
But, lots of players are going to the beach. They're going somewhere really, really amazing. I will say this. I feel really a little bit bad, like so proud of Filip Forsberg. Completely deserves to be an all-star. Love that he's getting the national recognition that he deserves. But his wife they're expecting their first child. And I'm like, this was their baby moon. And they're in Vegas. No, Toronto, which nothing's wrong with Toronto, but it's not Turks and Caicos. So I feel a little bit bad. Just so I would pick the vacation, and I would pick the vacation for the Forsbergs so they could have like a really nice tropical baby moon. But what about you? Which would you rather do?
You never know if you're going to go back or not. Like, if it's maybe different if you're like Sidney Crosby, where you've been to like 10.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're Filip Forsberg, you haven't been to one since 2015. And who knows if you're going to get a chance to go to another one. So yeah, why not? Why not be able to say you're a 2-time All-Star?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it depends on how many you've been to and how confident you are about going to second base. Would you rather do a all-star podcast on Monday or go to a all-inclusive resort in Turks and Caicos?
All-star podcast on Monday in the Turks and Caicos of the United States.
Yeah. All right. So join Anne as she solos Monday's show. No. On Monday, we will be back. We will recap All-Star Weekend. Did any of the changes that the NHL put in actually make the game more fun? That'll be a hot topic of conversation coming up on Monday. Until then, thank you for making us your first listen of the day every day this week. Locked On Predators thanks you. You can find us on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. So hit that subscribe button. Otherwise, we will see you next week for more Preds coverage. See you then.